I had a story to tell. There's a gap between what is possible and where my vision is, and I've had to fill that gap. You don't invent technology and then figure out what to do with it. You come up with an artistic problem, and then you have to invent the technology in order to accomplish it.
There's a beauty in innovation, in expanding the cinematic language available to a filmmaker, and nowhere is that more present than in the work of James Cameron. This is James Cameron, a visionary responsible for a series of films that have likely been burnt into your memory, with images so iconic they stay with you forever. His scale startles, his characters are archetypal, and his vision is uncompromising. And that's what I want to lean on today, that word, vision. Seeing as it actually looks likely we'll get Avatar 2 this year, that it actually might be happening, I thought a discussion about Cameron's process would be interesting, and the process of other visionaries. How do we make a Star Wars, an Avatar, a Jurassic Park? What is the ingredients in movies that convey a sense of awe and wonder? What are the qualities one must have to be a visionary? Of a creative that's ambition exceeds the limitations they're under. Artists that dare to ask, what if? I guess we first have to ask, what is a visionary? A visionary is a pioneer, an early adopter of something new and innovative, someone willing to leap before they know where they're landing.
Sometimes you gotta run before you can walk.
It's someone with an unwavering belief in their dream, of the reality they seek to show the world. Now that may be a horrible vision, or even a dream of a better future, but it's a dream that they feel compelled to realize. Generally, awards don't mean much to these guys. Decorated for Oscars, sure.
I'm the king of the world!
Whilst appreciative of them, they're not chasing an applause from the Academy, they're chasing applause from their peers.
Is there a competition at all between you and Stephen?
Sure.
What is it?
Who can do the better work? It's the oh wow factor.
That simple competition between creatives was not about who could walk away with the most awards, but who could make each other go, wow.
If I can do something and Steve says, oh wow, then I won.
The ability to make movies that have never been seen before, using innovative techniques to push the medium forward.
So when we sat down to conceive this project, I said, I want to pull out all the stops. I want to do that. I want to blow people away with something they've never seen before.
What is strikingly apparent with these directors is their focus on making you feel something, to live with the character. Whether that be sinking your feet into the soil of Pandora or riding a banshee through its winds, hearing the screams of agony when Anakin becomes Vader, or a sense of fear paramount in an encounter with a dinosaur. It's a sense of stay, lingering on how these characters feel in that moment that makes these characters connect with audiences, that make us truly go, wow.
The purpose is to be present, to be in that world, to be enjoying what's happening, to sustain a feeling.
Spielberg, Lucas, Cameron, or even Ridley Scott, Brad Bird, and Guillermo del Toro all want to make you say, wow, to leave you speechless, as a sense of awe overtakes your senses, of something innovative and creative that makes you question, how did they do that? They have a strong grasp on how to create a genuine awe-inspiring moment, not epic awe, even though that is there, but also beautiful awe. Whether it be in gorgeous shots sweeping across the landscape, or an intense moment of action, these scenes make you feel like saying, wow. Generally, that's because these filmmakers have a clear story they want to tell, an emotion they want to evoke. It is that clarity and that vision in that story that makes the technology issue a hurdle and not a roadblock.
And I had actually written Avatar in 1995, and they said, we can't do it yet. I said, all right, I'll just put it in a shelf for a few years.
Generally, stories are limited by the constraints of the technology of the time. It is these visionaries developing of that technology that then allows them to tell those stories.
In the meantime, I had developed a lot of technology to do things that I could not do when I was doing Star Wars. Because in Star Wars, because it's a science fiction film, it's a fantasy film, it pushes the limit, the technological limits of the medium. There's many things can't be done, they just can't.
The most important thing about visionaries is not just where they want to go, but why they want to go there. For Lucas, he felt compelled to tell a story about fathers and sons on a grand operatic scale. It was about generations. For Spielberg, it's that childlike wonder of the world, and for Cameron you could say he loves a story about love. Generally that being two strangers that have little in common coming together through a series of unlikely circumstances. A common attribute shared in most visionaries is a sense of something larger than life, of something triumphant, a vision these men had to realize, a why. That the movie transcends beyond a tale of science fiction and starts to become a statement about humanity.
I think science fiction is so good at these kind of social themes.
Yeah, the great thing about Star Wars is I had a thing, I mean a vessel that I could throw anything into.
I happen to believe that fantasy and stories have the same weight in shaping who we are than real things.
That strong sense of clarity is why most directors have a somewhat autocratic, harsh approach, a strong vision of what they want, of what they're chasing.
Well, a director is just somebody who's got a fetish with making the world to be the way he wants it to be. Sort of narcissistic.
So it's a system that sort of rewards, in a sense, a kind of autocratic system. Started with me being, kind of a tin pot dictator, because the movie was the most important thing.
James Cameron's filmography isn't all that complex. It follows a linear development in terms of budget and scale. He broke onto the scene with Terminator, a comparatively smaller budget film. Adjusted for inflation now, its $4 million budget would have only been $11 million today. I know, it's a lot, but in terms of movie budgets, it's a small budget. He followed that up with arguably one of the best action movies of all time with T2, pushed the boundaries of VFX, and then decided to head up another sequel with a follow-up to Ridley Scott's Alien. This film having a more aggressive action orientation compared to the more thriller-esque original. Of course, Cameron went ambitious with Titanic. It became the highest grossing movie of all time and sweeping up the Academy Awards, taking home 11 Oscars. This leaves us with Avatar. Avatar isn't that complex. I'd say it's not even that great of a story, but that doesn't mean it isn't emotionally resonant. Whilst it's common to pull from other influences to make your own film, Avatar borrows from other movies and does very little to reinvent those archetypes. The strong military guy, the badass Sarah Connor type, a main character exposed to indigenous tribe and sees his allegiances start to waver. Characters we've seen before, in other words, that have been done better in other movies. Avatar tends to have the most simplistic of characters, not really any nuance or depth. They're as simplistic as they tend to come. The enamored scientist, the great money-hungry corporate guy, to put it shortly, they're just archetypes. See, I think there's possibility for nuance too. We don't need to make the bad guy secretly good or just at heart, but at least some backstory or some events that motivated their decisions, that flesh out their thinly developed characters. Just something more than what we got. Something more than native good, human bad.
The simplicity of the story is what other people are drawn to. They say this is a classic story.
And it's been criticized for that.
Exactly, that's what I'm getting to.
Right.
Yeah.
However, this being said, I think part of the beauty of Avatar is that inherent simplicity. Whether it's characters, animals, or ecosystems, these defined archetypes allow us to attach onto something instantly recognizable in this alien world.
Telling a story that was simple in an archetypal manner that located them comfortably.
Whilst appearing simplistic, it cuts to the heart of how we've told stories for thousands of years. It's recognizable. The banshees being bird-like, whatever these are being very much like elephants, the monkeys being like, well, monkeys, even the Na'vi being cat-like in appearance makes us connect with the story way quicker because it's something we inherently recognize. Here's a question. Would we as an audience connect with the Na'vi if they truly looked alien? My guess is not as much. In the same way, what might seem like a story we've seen many times before reskinned to this alien world is purposefully done so as well, so that we get it right away.
You have to find a key into the heart of the audience, which means you have to find universals of human experience and then express them in exotic new ways. So you've got to find something that people recognize.
I think if a sequel is going to go ahead, it's likely going to tell another mythic type of story that we've seen before. But for me, if there's going to be any significant bite beyond its spectacle, it has to add a level of nuance to the characters and story. The idea of an Avatar 2 is a joke to many people, the movie that just never seems to come out. But the thing about visionaries is that they're willing to take their time, that they're playing the long game, whether that's Cameron waiting for the technology to catch up with Avatar, or Lucas with Mark Hamill.
And I owe him so much. He at one time said, would you consider playing an Obi-Wan type character handing Excalibur down to the next generation? I said, when would that be? And at the time he said around 2011.
There's an undeniable conviction about their plan for what they want to see and when it will finally arrive. With Cameron, he plans to reinvent cinema again, with groundbreaking filmmaking techniques that have never been seen before. Partly why it's taken so long is Cameron's insistence on using real tanks with real water and the complications that come with that, opposed to something like Aquaman that did the dry for wet technique, adding in wavy hair and bubbles in post. Cameron stating that the technique just does not hold up to scrutiny when compared to actually being underwater. Let me get something very clear. Cameron's Avatar sequels have not been pushed back due to creative differences or conflicts creating the story, simply just the magnitude of the project itself. As we know, Avatar 2 will feature the kids of Jake Sully and Neytiri. However, they'll need to be kids for a few movies. So Cameron has already shot scenes from movie 4, before movie 2 is even out.
Anything that had to be done with a specific actor, we did all the scenes for 2 and 3 together, and a little bit of 4. Because once again, I had to shoot the kids out before they're allowed to age 6 years in the middle of the story on page 25 of movie 4.
In other words, the man has such a large vision, he's simultaneously making 4 movies at once. And whilst a 5-movie saga may sound strange, it's actually kind of fitting of Cameron's filmography. Whilst the 3-act structure may work for a lot of people, Lucas, Tolkien, or Nolan, Cameron has famously used a 5-act structure to his films.
I believe in the 3-act structure, I've just never succeeded in doing one. Terminator's 5 acts, with a coda. Aliens is 4 acts. None of my stuff ever fits the 3-act structure. I think thinking in acts is good up to a point.
So I guess you could say the Avatar movies are the embodiment of Cameron's own history as a filmmaker. Not just him applying everything he's learned as a filmmaker in regards to VFX, but the movies itself being a reflection as to how Cameron makes movies.
I just made this strange decision that everything I needed to say artistically about the things that were important to me, I could say within the framework of the universe that I knew it could be.
It's probably my most personal film in the sense that I can track the inception of this film over a development period of many years, from when I was a kid out in the woods in Canada where I grew up, catching frogs and snakes and being a kind of hands-on, junior naturalist, through learning to scuba dive and loving the ocean so much, and it's my response to this world, this Pandora right here, this natural beauty and diversity that we have here, and then through the development as a filmmaker, learning the craft, learning the visual effects, learning how to push the envelope and all that. So for me, Avatar is a sum total of all of that.
Whilst I'm not sure I'll ever actually get to see Avatar 5 in my lifetime, I know what we're gearing up for is something truly special. Cameron seems to want to tell a generational story, seeing as what we've heard about Avatar 2 with Jake and Neytiri's son being a prominent character. A story that spans generations is interesting, seeing as that same scope is something Lucas employed for his Star Wars films. A story of generations.
You have to find a key into the heart of the audience, which means you have to find universals of human experience.
It's all about generations, and it's about the issues of fathers and sons and grandfathers, and it's a family soap opera.
Largely, people don't come to an Avatar movie for the story. It's not that complex. It's space Pocahontas with a bit of Fern Gully and the Lorax. Whatever. Point being, moviegoers come to a James Cameron movie for the feeling. Well, what do I mean by this? The feeling of being transported. A feeling like you're dreaming. Whilst Avatar is escapist, it touches on a series of core experiences in the human condition, a story that feels familiar in an alien world, a story that is a complete reflection of Cameron's own experiences as a storyteller and what he wants to say as a filmmaker that wants to look at his series of films and his life and say, wow.
Outstanding.